What if many of the decisions you think you are making today were actually rehearsed years ago, not consciously, not intentionally, but through repetition, observation, emotion, and experience? You may believe that you wake up every morning and freely decide how to think, how to react, what to believe, what to fear, and what to expect. But much of human behavior does not begin with a deliberate decision. It begins automatically. You reach for your phone without thinking. You take the same route, react to the same tone of voice, avoid the same uncomfortable situations, tell yourself the same story when something goes wrong, feel attracted to familiar types of people, interpret certain situations in almost identical ways. And most of the time, you do not stop to ask why. This is the strange power of the subconscious. Not because there is a mysterious hidden person inside your mind controlling you, but because your brain is constantly turning repeated behaviors into automatic patterns. And without those patterns, ordinary life would be almost impossible. Imagine having to consciously relearn how to walk every morning, how to brush your teeth, how to read, how to type, how to drive, how to open a door. The brain automates repeated actions because automation saves attention. Once something becomes familiar enough, you no longer need to devote the same level of conscious effort to it. This is incredibly useful, until the pattern being automated is not useful at all. Because the brain can automate fear just as easily as skill. It can automate self-doubt, avoidance, defensiveness, procrastination, people-pleasing, overthinking, emotional reactions, even the way you interpret yourself. And once a pattern becomes familiar, it can begin to feel like personality. You stop saying, "I learned to react this way," and begin saying, "This is just who I am." But those are not the same statement. One describes an identity, the other describes a pattern, and patterns can change. To understand how deeply this happens, think about childhood. A child enters the world without understanding what money means, what success means, what love should look like, what failure means, what kind of person they are supposed to become. So the child watches, listens, absorbs. They notice how adults react to money, how conflict is handled, whether affection is given freely or withheld, whether mistakes are treated as opportunities or disasters, whether strangers are trusted, whether life is described as exciting or dangerous, whether people say things like, "Money is hard to earn," "People always leave," "You have to work yourself to exhaustion," "Don't trust anyone," "You're too sensitive," "You're not good at that," "People like us don't do things like that." Some of these messages are spoken directly, many are not. A child can learn fear without anyone saying the word fear. They only need to watch how the adults around them respond. And eventually, these repeated experiences begin creating expectations, not necessarily permanent beliefs, but familiar mental pathways, ways of anticipating the world. Years later, the child becomes an adult. The environment changes, but some of the predictions remain. This is where something fascinating happens. You may consciously want one thing while automatically expecting another. You may consciously want a healthy relationship while instinctively distrusting closeness. You may want financial growth while feeling uncomfortable whenever you begin taking a risk. You may want to speak confidently while your body reacts as though being seen is dangerous. You may want change while some deeper part of your nervous system keeps choosing what is familiar. This is one reason knowing what to do is often not enough. People read books, listen to podcasts, watch motivational videos, write goals, make plans, and still return to the same behavior. Why? Because information and conditioning are not the same thing. You can understand something intellectually without having practiced it enough for it to become automatic. Think about learning to drive. The first time you sit behind the wheel, everything requires attention. Mirrors, pedals, speed, distance, steering, traffic. It can feel overwhelming, but after enough repetition, something changes. You stop consciously thinking about every movement. Your nervous system has learned the pattern. Now imagine that instead of learning to drive, you spent years rehearsing a thought. "I'm not good enough. Something is going to go wrong. People cannot be trusted. I always mess things up. Nothing works for me." every repetition strengthens familiarity, and the more familiar a thought becomes, the less strange it feels when it returns. Eventually, you may stop recognizing it as a thought. It starts sounding like reality. That distinction is enormous, because a thought saying, "I will fail," does not arrive with a label saying, "This is an old prediction learned from past experiences." It simply appears. And because it appears inside your own mind, you assume it must be true. But familiarity is not evidence. A belief can feel natural simply because you have rehearsed it for years. This is where awareness changes everything. You cannot consciously change a pattern you never notice. So before trying to reprogram anything, the first step is observation. Watch for repetition, not just repeated actions. Repeated emotional reactions, repeated assumptions, repeated interpretations. What do you immediately think when someone does not reply? What story appears when you make a mistake? What do you tell yourself when an opportunity feels uncertain? What happens internally when someone criticizes you? What happens when things begin going unusually well? That last question is important, because some people are comfortable with struggle but uncomfortable with success. Not because they consciously want to fail, but because struggle is familiar. Calm may feel unfamiliar. Receiving may feel unfamiliar. Being seen may feel unfamiliar. Trust may feel unfamiliar. And the nervous system often interprets unfamiliarity as uncertainty. This is why people sometimes sabotage exactly what they say they want. Not because a hidden force wants to destroy their lives, but because automatic behavior tends to follow familiar pathways. Your brain is constantly predicting. What usually happens next? What does this situation mean? How should I respond? And those predictions are built partly from previous experience. The past becomes a reference library, useful when the future resembles the past, limiting when it does not. So if you want to change an automatic pattern, simply telling yourself to stop may not be enough. You have to give the brain another pattern to practice. This is where repetition becomes powerful. Consider the person who automatically apologizes for expressing an opinion. They may consciously decide, "I need to be more confident." But confidence is too vague. The brain needs behavior. So instead, the person practices something specific, speaking one complete thought without immediately apologizing. Then again, and again. At first, it feels unnatural, because the old behavior is familiar. The new behavior requires conscious attention, but repeated action changes familiarity. This principle appears everywhere. Musicians repeat scales, athletes repeat movements, actors rehearse lines, language learners repeat vocabulary. Not because repetition is glamorous, but because repetition moves information from effort toward automaticity. Mental habits can be approached similarly. Suppose your automatic thought is, "I always ruin everything." Replacing it once with, "I am perfect and everything works for me," may feel unbelievable. Your mind rejects the gap. A better approach might be, "I made a mistake. What can I do differently next time?" Now you have interrupted the old program without demanding that your brain believes something completely disconnected from experience. This is an important distinction. Reprogramming your mind does not mean lying to yourself. It means practicing a different relationship with your thoughts. You are not trying to force yourself into fantasy. You are trying to stop treating every automatic prediction as truth. Imagine waking up and thinking, "Today is going to be terrible." Normally, that thought might immediately control your state, but instead, you notice it. There it is again, the old prediction. Then you ask, what evidence do I actually have about today? Maybe none. Now the day becomes unknown again, and the unknown contains more possibilities than the old program allowed. This is how consciousness begins interrupting automatic behavior. Notice, pause, question, choose, repeat, notice, pause, question, choose, repeat. At first, this feels slow, because consciousness is expensive. Automatic behavior is efficient. But something interesting happens with repetition. The new response gradually becomes easier. Eventually, you may notice that the thought that once controlled you no longer carries the same emotional force. The situation happens, but you respond differently. And that is when you realize something fundamental. You were not changing reality directly. You were changing the pattern through which you entered reality. And that changes what happens next, because internal patterns affect external behavior. If you expect rejection, you may avoid reaching out. If you expect failure, you may delay starting. If you believe conflict is dangerous, you may suppress your needs until resentment grows. If you believe you are incapable, you may ignore opportunities that require confidence. Then reality appears to confirm your belief. You say, "See, nothing ever changes." But perhaps the belief influenced the behavior that helped create the outcome. This is not about blaming yourself for everything that happens. You cannot control every circumstance. Other people exist. Chance exists. Systems exist. Loss exists. Life contains events that no mindset can prevent. But within those realities, automatic mental patterns still influence your response. And response matters. Now consider something even subtler. Your environment reinforces your programming. Your phone, your conversations, your media, the people around you, the things you hear repeatedly, the ideas you consume every day. If your attention is constantly exposed to anger, comparison, fear, outrage, and inadequacy, those patterns become increasingly available to the mind. What you repeatedly expose yourself to becomes easier to think about. This does not mean everything you see becomes a belief, but repetition shapes familiarity, and familiarity shapes attention. So changing your internal programming sometimes requires changing what repeatedly enters your mind. If you want a different mental environment, examine your actual environment. What do you see every morning? What do you listen to? Who influences your definition of success? What kind of language surrounds you? Which emotional state does your digital life repeatedly place you in? You cannot completely control the world, but you can become more deliberate about what receives repetition. This also applies to identity. Every time you say, "I'm just lazy, I'm terrible with money, I'm bad at relationships, I'm an anxious person, I never finish anything," you are not merely describing behavior, you are rehearsing identity. Identity can become one of the strongest forms of programming because people instinctively try to behave consistently with who they believe they are. So instead of making the identity permanent, make it specific. Instead of, "I'm lazy," try, "I've been avoiding this task." Instead of, "I'm terrible with money," try, "I haven't yet developed a reliable system for managing money." Instead of, "I'm bad at relationships," try, "There are relationship patterns I still need to understand." Language matters because one sentence describes a prison, the other describes a process, and processes can evolve. There is another powerful tool for interrupting automatic behavior: presence. Many automatic patterns operate most easily when attention is somewhere else. You are thinking about tomorrow while performing today, replaying yesterday while speaking to someone now, scrolling while eating, driving while mentally arguing with a person who is not even in the car. The body is here, the mind is elsewhere. When attention returns to the present moment, automatic behavior becomes easier to notice. This may be one reason new relationships, travel, creative experiences, or major life changes sometimes make people feel unusually alive. The unfamiliar demands attention. You cannot rely entirely on autopilot. You notice details. Time feels different. Food tastes different. Music feels stronger. Life becomes vivid. Not necessarily because reality changed, but because you were actually there for it. And that gives us another clue. If you want to reprogram the mind, create experiences that require presence. Do something differently. Take another route. Have the conversation you have been avoiding. Practice a response before you need it. Sit without your phone. Write down the thought you keep repeating. Observe your reaction instead of immediately obeying it. Small disruptions reveal automatic patterns. And once revealed, those patterns become choices again. Perhaps this is what real mental change looks like. Not waking up one morning as an entirely new person, but catching yourself 1 second earlier, choosing differently once, then twice, then often enough that the new response no longer feels new. There is no magical reset button. Your subconscious is not a computer where you type one command and delete decades of experience. But the brain does learn. Behavior changes, associations change, skills change, responses change, identity changes, and repeated experience is one of the mechanisms through which that happens. So if you want to change your life, do not only ask, "What do I want?" Ask, "What pattern would naturally produce that result?" If you want confidence, what does confidence repeatedly do? If you want peace, what behaviors protect peace? If you want focus, what would a focused person stop rehearsing? If you want a healthier relationship, what communication pattern needs to become familiar? Then practice the pattern, not once. Not only when you feel inspired. Enough times for the unfamiliar to begin becoming familiar. Because your future behavior is being trained by what you repeatedly do today. And this is perhaps the most important realization. The automatic parts of your mind are not your enemy. They learned from repetition, which means repetition can also teach them something new. Your past may have written the first version of the program. Your family may have influenced it. Your experiences may have reinforced it. Fear may have strengthened it. But awareness gives you the ability to read the code. Practice gives you the ability to edit it. And repetition gives the new pattern a chance to become automatic. So pay attention the next time you hear yourself say, "This is just who I am." Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is simply who you have practiced being. And if that is true, then the question becomes much more interesting. Who are you willing to practice becoming now?